We are a week away from preseason. A lot of tickets available.
They actually got a player. The league actually got a player worth pushing. Y'all are mad about it. Still mad about it.
Caitlin Clark fans are now talking about boycotting tickets after what they see as clear disrespect from the front office. What was supposed to be a celebration of the league's biggest star has turned into WNBA panic everywhere. And now the conversation has completely shifted from basketball to frustration, tension, and chaos.
I have never seen this team beg more for ticket sales than I'm seeing now. I have never seen them post more. I've never seen them ask more.
Something funny is happening around the Indiana Fever, and no one can quite decide if it's drama or just the internet doing what it does best, overreacting. Caitlin Clark is still the biggest name in the league by a mile, but suddenly the conversation has taken a weird turn. Now people are asking why tickets aren't magically selling out every single night like it's a Marvel premiere. And of course, once that question hits, there's chaos everywhere.
From the Indiana Fever fan base, the Caitlin Clark fan base has not cooled off, has not subsided after the unimaginable, the unfathomable draft pick of Raven Johnson 2 nights ago.
Then comes the disrespect storyline, because of course it does. Now fans are zooming in on graphics like they're solving a crime scene. Why isn't she centered? Why is she not bigger? At this point, even a team schedule post gets treated like hidden meaning analysis. One group calls it normal branding, the other group calls it sabotage. And in between, the front office is probably just trying to post a schedule without starting World War III in the replies.
Tickets are moving a little slowly for the Indiana Fever. When you compare it to the first year, flew off the shelves.
But then there's another layer that complicates everything even more: ticket pricing. This is where facts and perception start clashing hard. On paper, demand for certain games is still strong. There are still matchups where prices jump significantly, especially when Caitlin Clark is involved. Some seats even reach premium levels depending on location and opponent. But at the same time, online discussions focus heavily on the idea that not every game feels like a guaranteed sellout event.
When it comes to ticket sales and trying to sell out an arena, I have never seen the Indiana Fever ask more than they are asking now.
And that's where social media distorts the picture. A few screenshots of available seats or high resale prices suddenly become proof that demand is collapsing. One post spreads, then another, and soon it turns into a full narrative about struggling sales. It doesn't matter that context is missing. It doesn't matter that different games have different pricing structures or timing issues. The story becomes bigger than the actual data. Part of the frustration also comes from pricing itself. Fans are noticing that tickets for some WNBA games, especially high-profile ones, are not as cheap as they used to be. In some cases, decent seats are priced at levels that feel closer to Major League sports than people expected. That shift creates tension because expectations are still adjusting to the league's rapid rise in visibility. When people hear WNBA regular season, they still carry old pricing assumptions. But when they see modern demand-driven pricing, it creates shock.
Indiana Fever had media day, and Caitlin Clark was asked the dreaded off-ball question.
This is where comparisons start coming in, especially with the NBA. Fans point out that NBA playoff games can be expensive, but the product has a long-established market. The WNBA is still in a growth phase, so when prices start climbing, every increase feels more controversial. It's not just about cost, it's about timing. People are still deciding what they believe the product is worth.
The one team that didn't need to beg for ticket sales is begging for ticket sales?
At that point, it's not really about basketball anymore. It's about perception. It's about who controls the narrative and who gets blamed for it. And once that happens, even basic business decisions start looking suspicious to someone somewhere online. Meanwhile, the way fans actually watch the game has completely changed. The WNBA is right in the middle of a media system that feels more complicated than the sport itself. It's not just turning on a channel anymore. It's streaming apps, subscriptions, platforms, and random services that show up depending on the night. One game is on national TV, the next is behind a streaming paywall, the next one is on an app you only remember exists when you're trying to find the game at tip-off. And fans are stuck in the middle of it, juggling subscriptions like they're managing utility bills just to follow one team.
5th, 6th, NFL, college football, MLB, WWE, UFC, NBA. Interesting. And load management is part of that.
And it's not even just a WNBA issue. The NFL, NBA, MLB, all of them are doing the same thing. Media rights are exploding in value, so everything is getting split across platforms. But here's the irony fans keep pointing out. There's more access than ever, yet it feels harder to actually access anything smoothly. The sport is everywhere, but also nowhere convenient.
Takes a basketball player that literally run her mouth about the fandom 2 weeks before she was drafted to said team.
That leads straight into the real debate. Is this expansion actually helping the game grow, or is it slowly making it harder for casual fans to stay engaged? Because visibility sounds great in theory. More broadcasts, more streaming deals, more exposure. But visibility without simplicity just becomes noise after a while.
We all sat through Caitlin Clark missing every game last year due to injury except 13. I believe it was 13 games. And it made for one long season.
And that's where the Caitlin Clark effect completely shifts everything. Every time she plays, the numbers move, ratings spike, social media lights up. Even people who don't normally watch suddenly tune in. That's why her name keeps showing up in every conversation, whether it's tickets, broadcasts, or league growth.
Somebody brought up online, you know what? The Indiana Fever won a lot of games last year, but a lot of those games that they won were still boring. And that's not a good look for the team, for their marketing, for the WNBA. You don't want boring games because that's what your league was associated with before Caitlin Clark's arrival.
Some people describe it very simply, before Caitlin Clark and after Caitlin Clark. Because Fever games are no longer just regular season matchups, they are events. And when they air nationally, the viewership jump isn't subtle. It's noticeable, repeatable, and widely discussed.
Sitting back and watching these prominent NBA superstars not play in games to their full capacity, bitching about how many games they've got to play, bitching about how long they got to play in games, and watching some of these awful coaches set down their stars has really turned a lot of fans off.
That's where the split begins. One side says she is carrying attention for the entire league, acting like a magnet for a wider audience. The other side says the league already had talent and shouldn't depend on one player for identity. Both arguments exist at the same time, and that tension is exactly what keeps the entire conversation alive. It also creates comparisons to major sports markets. People start throwing around names like the Cowboys or Lakers, where popularity often outgrows performance. Teams or players become bigger than the standings themselves because attention follows them regardless. And that is the uncomfortable reality the WNBA is now dealing with. One player is becoming a national focal point, and everything around her is being measured against that spotlight.
Was boring and a piss-poor product. Well, there's been all kinds of troubled signals that have went up like flares all over the place.
But when one player becomes that central, everything else starts getting interpreted differently too. And that leads into roster and draft conversations. Every decision the Fever makes now is being analyzed through a completely different lens. A draft pick is no longer just a draft pick. A rotation change is not just tactical. A signing is not just depth building. It all becomes part of a bigger story about whether the team is truly building around Caitlin Clark or slowly drifting in another direction.
You can't tell me she loves Caitlin Clark either, because I'm not believing that. Regardless of how much people will play nice once they're on the same team, it's still drama the team just didn't need.
And because of that, even normal coaching decisions get pulled into controversy. A substitution late in a game becomes, why is she off the floor? A draft pick becomes, why that position? A lineup change becomes, what are they planning long term? Everything is magnified. Then comes the final layer, and this is where things get messy fast.
You got Stephanie White saying that, they're going to load manage Caitlin Clark, and we'll get to the fact that the Fever are still putting up their little social media posts about buying tickets.
Online discussions around the league often spiral into something much bigger than basketball. What starts as a conversation about performance or marketing quickly turns into heated debates filled with accusations, defensiveness, and extreme opinions on all sides. Social media does not filter tone, it amplifies it. A single viral comment can set off thousands of replies. One post can turn into a full-blown argument between fan bases. And in the middle of all of it, the actual game gets buried. Instead of talking about assists, shooting, or strategy, the conversation shifts toward conflict, identity, and narrative battles.
Caitlin Clark's going to play off ball. We're drafting a point guard. We're drafting a point guard that hates Caitlin Clark fans.
The problem is not that people care. The problem is that the loudest voices online are not always the most accurate representation of the fan base, but they are the ones that spread the fastest. And once those voices take over, everything starts feeling more divided than it really is. So now the WNBA is in this strange space where attention is higher than ever, but so is tension. Visibility is at a peak, but so is disagreement. And in the middle of it all sits a league trying to balance growth, expectations, and one of the most talked about players in modern basketball.
Play off ball, load management. This is starting to sound like a nightmare.
Now here's where things get a little tricky, because depending on who you ask, the WNBA is either exploding in popularity or just riding a very loud wave of attention that comes and goes. The numbers don't tell one clean story. Some games spike massively in viewership, especially when Caitlin Clark is on national TV. Those games feel different. The buzz is louder, social media is active, and suddenly people who don't normally watch are tuned in. But then there are other games where things feel more normal, more stable, more like traditional league growth. And that's where the debate starts. Because one side says, look, this is proof the league is growing. The other side says, but why does it feel like the growth depends so heavily on one player? And both sides have data they can point to, which is exactly why the argument keeps going in circles.
That has got swatted down by fans of Caitlin Clark like Dikembe Mutombo is playing defense going, I mean, rejected back into the stands.
When Caitlin Clark is playing, viewership doesn't just rise slightly, it jumps in a way that's hard to ignore. It creates this pattern where people start comparing games with her versus games without her, almost like two different products. And that leads to a bigger question nobody can avoid anymore. Is this real long-term growth? Or is it star-driven momentum that might slow down if the spotlight shifts?
She has game exposure, she has game pace, she has game rhythm, she has game timing, and so we have an advantage. But we also want to be smart. She doesn't need every rep in practice. Like we want to continue to ramp her up. You know, it's a long season.
This is where people start throwing around a simple idea, even if they don't say it formally. attention economy versus sports economy. In a sports economy, growth is built on teams, systems, rivalries, and long-term fan bases. In an attention economy, growth is driven by moments, personalities, and viral spikes. And right now, the WNBA is sitting right in the middle of both, trying to figure out which one actually defines its future. Because attention is clearly there, but attention alone doesn't always guarantee stability.
44 games, and we play a heavy cadence of games in a week, and so we want to be smart in camp and make sure we I don't want to say ease her into it because she's ready for camp, but we want to make sure that we manage the reps and what kinds of reps she's getting, just to build her up so that she's ready to go, and we don't have any kind of questions about that.
Now, when you zoom out, the comparison game starts getting louder. People begin comparing the WNBA's situation to what happens in the NBA or even WWE. And it sounds strange at first, but the logic is simple. In every major entertainment industry, there are always headline figures. In the NBA, it's superstar-driven teams. In WWE, it's characters, storylines, and personalities that carry entire events.
I mean, come on. Ramp her up? Stephanie White has used that phrase. She was saying that when we were still expecting and waiting for her to come back last year, and she never made it back.
And the uncomfortable truth is, controversy often drives more engagement than clean, quiet success. A rivalry gets more attention than a blowout. A personality gets more coverage than a system. A storyline gets more clicks than a stat sheet. That's not unique to basketball. That's just how modern sports media works. So when people argue about the WNBA, what they're really arguing about is whether it's becoming more like a traditional sports league or more like an entertainment product built around stars and narratives. Because right now, both forces are clearly active at the same time. And that brings everything to the final question.
When the Fever was blowing smoke up our asses about her return, we're going to ramp her up. She just played USA basketball. Stop. Here's my issue. Here is my issue. My issue is if you give Stephanie White truth serum and then ask her, do you feel like you've got a better all-around team if Caitlin Clark is not on the court?
Is what we're seeing real panic or just internet noise turning small moments into big stories? You've got one group saying there's a boycott forming, another group saying the front office is just making normal business decisions, and another group saying the media is amplifying everything into something bigger than it actually is. All three narratives exist at once, and none of them fully cancels out the others. That's why the situation feels so unsettled. The league is clearly getting more attention than ever before, but attention doesn't always equal stability. Growth is happening, but it doesn't feel fully settled yet. It still feels like it's finding its shape in real time. And that leads to the real question hanging over everything right now. Is this actual growth? Or just growing pains that come with becoming visible faster than expected?